Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Stargirl Season 2 review series. And today I'm going to be talking about Episode 5, Summer School Chapter 5, which I have just finished watching. And this episode was really good, really scary, and very, very dark. I really enjoyed this one a lot, and I kind of experienced some Scarecrow vibes in this episode. And of course, for those of you who are very familiar with that name, the Scarecrow is, of course, one of the main heavy hitters of the DC Universe, and especially in the Batman Rogues Gallery. And what I mean by that is, Scarecrow wasn't actually in this episode, but there were certain aspects of the Scarecrow's gimmick that were felt in this episode in terms of the fear aspects, and I really enjoyed that one a lot. So, what we saw in this episode, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, was we saw most of the JSA's worst fears being played out before their very eyes. And to me, that was just brilliant. I really enjoyed that one a lot. So basically, what's happened so far in season 2 is Cindy Burham is back and she's on a mission going around recruiting different people to try and form a brand new version of the Injustice Society. And so far, she has recruited one guy who is going to be the Fiddler. And for those of you who are probably not that familiar with the Fiddler was one of the old villains from the Flash comics back in the 1940s with Jay Garrick, and they recently brought him back, or a version of that character, in the Flash season 4, but it wasn't quite the Fiddler that we all know. It was kind of like a version of the Fiddler. So I really enjoyed this episode a lot, and this was downright scary. And the budget for this episode, in terms of the effects, was just incredible. And what I like about Stargirl so far is, just like Superman and Lois, the budget is really high. You can really feel it's very different to the other shows in the Arrowverse. It's a lot more serious. It's a lot more darker. Not so much heavy comedic stuff, which is good. I don't like it when there's too much comedy. I like it to be pure serious, as it should be. You know, for a character that's supposed to be very patriotic like Stargirl, this show can get really, really dark. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this has just been an amazing ride, and we're only 5 episodes into season 2 already, so this has been really, really good. So, with that all said, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 5, Summer School, chapter 5. So, this episode starts off 10 years ago in the past in California, where we see a little girl wakes up and she is scared that her dad is coming after her. We then see her mum comes in and promises he won't find them. That night we see her dad returns and we learn that the little girl in the flashback is Cindy. We then cut to the present day and we see a grown-up Cindy is telling a local to stay away from the teen boy, and she tells Cindy she knows she is just as bad as her dad. Courtney gets caught coming in after a curfew by Pat, and she confesses she was out looking for the Shade. Now, the Shade, as we've seen in a couple of episodes now, the Shade wasn't actually in this one, but he was referenced quite heavily. The Shade has said that he is not the enemy, and he's got a different agenda. We don't know yet, but it's looking like he's shaping up to be the main villain. But then again, we've got Cindy putting together her team, working in the background, so it's very hard to say how this is going to play out. So we see that Courtney wants him to team up with them and get Eclipso so they can get the diamond back. Pat tells her that the Shade is too dangerous to have as an ally. We then see Cam, who is a student at Courtney's school, is painting a wall and the weather turns bad. He thinks it's his dad, possibly Eclipso. He heads back to the school. His teacher sees his sketchbook and he's been drawing Courtney. His teacher smiles. Just then, Courtney arrives and Cam blushes. Cam runs into Cindy. She shares that she is sorry about his dad. He doesn't believe her, just when it looks like she plans to kill him. A teacher named Paul, who is an art teacher, comes in. Cam leaves. The teacher talks to Cindy, who does something to him, and he starts to hear an evil voice in his head. The Shade visits Barb and warns her of Courtney snooping. If she knows where the damned one is, he wants to know right away. Rick sees Cam painting his mural. He stops his car and stares, telling Cam he doesn't need anything. His non-verbal message is sent. Rick heads to Pat's garage and Beth is there and swears she used the Google to talk to Dr. Midnight. Pat thinks it's a hoax. As Pat tries to teach a class, he begins to cough and he starts coughing out paint. He rushes out of the room and starts gagging everywhere. Mike drags Barb and his dad out to see a station wagon. He wants to make up for the mess with the Shade, and Pat tells him he has a project for them that is even better. Mike becomes even more upbeat, and on her way home, Courtney sees Cam working on his street mural. They talk, he shows her his sketches, and she smiles. Paul talks to the voice. It is overpowering him. Meanwhile, Cam shows Courtney his house. He talks about his gardens and what he wants to do with his life. And just when they're about to kiss, Courtney gets a text about the weather and Eclipso. She tells him she has to go, and he feels very upset. Now, can a guy ever get a break? Clearly not, because every time it looks like Cam and Courtney are going to have a moment, she has to bail and do her Stargirl thing. So hopefully he'll learn the truth eventually before this season wraps up. We see night has fallen and Courtney meets the others at the school, and they are dressed in their costumes, ready to find the diamond and possibly Eclipso. They see their teacher Paul's car still there, and they head inside without Pat, who hasn't shown up yet. Inside they see stage artwork. They cannot find Paul. Yolanda hears an ominous voice. The weather is picking up. Eclipso appears. He throws objects at them. Courtney sees Paul. He has the diamond. Suddenly everyone stops and the paintings disappear. Paul is on the wall. He tells them that his muse is gone. Now this was a really good scene because everyone's worst fears started getting played out before their very eyes, and I thought that to me was the best scene of the entire episode. You see Yolanda was going mad. You see all of everybody else was going mad. It was just crazy. It was just an unbelievable scene, and it was really, really scary. And you see the art teacher Paul. You see he's kind of like this vessel without the Eclipso, and you see him being all absorbed by paint, and he's screaming, "There's no light, only darkness." That was a really scary scene, but I really enjoyed it a lot. Really felt like a horror kind of episode or sort of moment. Later we see Pat talks with the kids. They share how it felt like Eclipso was working through Paul. Pat thinks he is getting stronger. Beth's parents come home. She confronts them. She knows they are getting a divorce. They tell her they haven't officially decided to split just yet. They want to talk as a family. We then see Cindy shows her evil associates a picture of Mike. He is what they need to wreak havoc. And meanwhile, Cam starts to feel the powers of his dad as we see ice start to form. And that's how this episode ends. Overall, excellent episode. Really enjoyed this one a lot. Especially the last few minutes at the end where Beth, Yolanda, and all of the JSA members were just experiencing their worst fears come to life. Really enjoyed that one a lot. So it looks like Cindy is officially putting her team together. We see a few more people have been recruited. And, the Shade, can he be trusted? I personally don't think so, but we're just going to have to wait and see. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What did you think of episode 5? Did you enjoy it? What was your thoughts on Paul being possessed by the Eclipso and now being used as some sort of vessel? Did you find that scene scary? And also, what about all of Stargirl's teammates having all their worst fears being played out before their very eyes? Did you experience any Scarecrow vibes from that moment? And also, what about Cam feeling the powers of his dad? Do you think it's possible he could become the next Dr. Icicle? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Stargirl Season 2 review series, where I am going to be talking about Episode 6, which I know is going to be a really good one, especially with the way this episode played out. Can't wait to see it. And Cam experiencing his dad's powers was definitely bone chilling to say the very least. So we'll just have to wait and see how that's going to play out. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, thanks for listening.